Or they come to a word that they don't know, and if you just say, oh, that's just a crazy word, English is just crazy. What's the message we send when we tell someone English is just crazy?
That you're not good enough.
I don't get it either, so why even bother? That's what you're saying as a teacher. I don't understand it either. That's why you have to have highly trained, specialized teachers to help these kids, because they're going to know right away whether or not you know what you're doing. So here's an example. How about the word to, that TWO? Why is a W there? So we'll call that a rainbow word. We'll write it 1,000 times. We'll memorize it. Instead, you have an expert teacher who says, you know what, that's fascinating. There has to be a reason. So why is that W there? Let's think about it. What do we call two kids born to the same person on the same day in the same hospital room? Twins. What's that time between evening and morning? Twilight. What do if I'm standing here and then there's this here and this here, I'm standing blank between them. What's 2 times 10? What's 10 plus 2? 12. 12. So I've been writing all of this down on the board. So if I was with a student, I'd be writing it down so they can see it. What did you learn about the W and 2? It's there for a reason. It makes sense, right? It's called an etymological marker. It's there marking its connection to all of these other words who are spelled the same way and have the same connotation of the number 2. So a child is going to memorize that more than they're going to memorize rainbow writing 5,000 times. And then there's another one, sign, S-I-G-N. This one's a little bit easier. Why is there a G in sign? Do any of you know? Is it just crazy? It's English insane. It's not. English is what's called morphophonemic, which means that when you add a morpheme to a word, it changes its morphology. So if I add an A-L to the word sign, what does the word become? Signal. If I add 2 more morphemes, I make it signature, designation, resignation, signify, signature. You can't have any of those words without that G in that word sign. So now they're not going to spell it, for the most part, S-I-N-E, because they know that G has to be there for a reason. And it has to be there so we can have all those other words in the word family. So that's the kind of expertise that the kids need, because it helps them understand how English is structured, and it'll help them remember it. I'm not here to say that's going to make them a perfect speller. I'm here to say that's at least going to give them pause and let them think, oh, okay, there has to be a reason for this. It's not as frustrating as crazy, and I'm not going to give up on it. And there's another one I was going to say, like love, dove, gov, love, dove, shove, glove. Why is there an E on the end of those words? Shouldn't they be loaf, glow, dove? They'll answer that. So no English word ever ends in V. So there has to be an E after every V. It's simple little things you can teach your students to help them with their spelling. In English, like I said, we just never end a word in V. Multisensory is still very important. I'm just like focusing on the sight word part right now. You still want to do multisensory stuff when you're talking about adding morphemes to words or looking at syllable types or however it is that you're teaching the English language. You're still going to do the scooping. You're still going to do the tracing. But when you're talking about words that seem crazy, instead of over-relying on the memory, which is hard for them, let's rely on why it's really spelled that way. Starting with sight words is the best way to do that.
What's the label of that type of?
That's called structured word inquiry. I actually wrote a book called Dyslexia and Spelling that's in there. Because they get it. A lot of times students will look at me and they're like, well, why didn't anyone teach me that before? Because they just didn't know.
Right.
No blame, they just didn't know. If you're looking at me, you gave up. Okay, 20 more seconds. Okay, was it harder than you thought it would be?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody in this classroom, almost everybody, had their hand up by the 3rd word. What's the first thing we tell them when they can't read a word? They sound it out. So imagine being a student who's relatively intelligent or very intelligent, and they're doing exactly what we tell them to do, and it's still wrong every single time. So this simulation makes, when you look down at that, at what you wrote, does it look like something you've seen before? It's kind of like how our students write. A lot of people will say it's called phonetic writing. I have a background in linguistics, so I don't agree with that, because phonetics is the physical speaking. It's the way that you move your mouth. It's the vocal cords. It's the airwaves. All those things. That's what phonetics is. So what you're doing there is you're spelling phonemically. So you're spelling everything the way it sounds, but you're adding a grapheme to it. Once you add a grapheme to something and you write something down, it's no longer phonetics, it's now phonology and phonemics. But this is, what our kids, they do. They come to a word that they don't know and they write it exactly like we told them to write it, and it's still wrong. Yes. So does anybody back here want me to come near them? No. Did anybody in these 2 rows want me to come near? What happens when I come near you and ask you to read?
Your heartbeat.
Your heart rate goes up? Anything else?
Get nervous.
You get really nervous?
All those things. Yeah, sweaty palms.
Sweaty palms. And I heard some laughing while other people were reading. Even from the people who had the same things that you guys did were laughing at each other. It's really interesting. Anything else? Okay. How many of you want that to end? Okay. How are you guys all feeling right now after your 5th simulation? A little tired. Have any of you learned anything? Are any of you feeling like you want to go home and share this with your kids?
Yeah.
Okay. And I would really, really highly encourage that you do, because when you do talk to adults, they do, a lot of them share that nobody ever talked to them about their dyslexia, and they felt really isolated, like no one really understood. So if you go home and say, I went through this, this is what it felt like, is this what it feels like? It's going to be like a relief, like somebody gets it. And like I said, because you guys are already here, I am sure that they already have tons of support, but it's going to be even nicer for them to know that somebody gets what it feels like, the social emotional impact of it. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm gonna leave these here. This one is Dyslexia Advocate. Actually here, this will be easier for you. This is for if you're a parent and you're trying to deal with the school system. This has everything in there. This is spelling, and then there's another one that's just about the adults. That's my passion project, the adults one.